back to kind of the main gist of what you're trying to convey in your resume or when you're talking to employers at a career fair or an interview. We're looking for somebody that fits with our firm, right? So, and also you're kind of want to think about, how do I fit with that firm? Because maybe if you have a crappy interview with someone, it's because it wasn't right. You know what I mean? So we're really trying to find the best fit. Do you meet our basic criteria? Good grades, have a little bit of work experience, volunteer work, things like that. Do we think you can do or learn to do the job that is required? And do you have some soft skills that we would want as part of our firm? Good attitude, poise, confidence. So thinking about this stuff is really what you should be doing when you're trying to convey something through your resume, through your 30-second commercial, and when you're having that kind of genuine discussion. I want to come out of this and I want them to know I'm a great fit for their company. I meet all the basic criteria. I can do the job, or I can learn the job, and I'm a boss. Make sense?
I just want to reiterate the soft skills. An important part is your personality. When people are discussing you and talking about you, a big thing that is going to come up is, would you like to work with this person? Because that is what we are doing. We're finding people that we are going to work with. People that we're going to see every day, we're going to spend our time with every day, and somebody that is just a good person to be around. So that's why these soft skills are huge. If you have a positive attitude that you can bring into the office every day, then that is going to take you a long way. So people focus on that.
So just kind of like, I think we kind of talked about this, but just specific to BDO, GPA of 3.0 or above, communication, interpersonal skills, your career focus, all the good stuff, right? And how, so like if you looked at your resume right now, could you check all these boxes? Could you say, I have a 3.0, I've got communication and interpersonal skills, and I can show how I do it, how I have those through a story. I'm career focused, how do I show that? Can I show that? On-campus participation, do I have that at all? Professionalism, how do I communicate that I am professional? Leadership, how do I show? Do I have a story in my back pocket that I can pull up to show that I am a leader or have been in a leadership role and done well? Do I have work experience in extracurricular activities, and what was my involvement there? That's what you have to think. When you're going through this kind of stuff and you see this for a job, that's what you have to think. Does my resume, can I do that? Can I show them all of those things? Right?
Nice.
Questions? At least 3 or we're not moving on. This is great. Can be specific.
What's your 30-second pitch?
So, my 30-second pitch, now or when I was in school, when I did my career fair. I'll tailor it to you guys. So, my 30-second pitch would be, hi, my name is Ryan Kane. I'm a senior. When I was going through it, I'm a senior. I'm in accounting. I went through the honors accounting program, and I'm interested in a tax position with BDO. I've been looking through your guys' website. I've talked to a few people there. I'm really interested in how you guys kind of interact. I've heard you guys' your people are very important to you. Do you think you could expound on that a little bit?
Nice.
So something like that.
A question up front. Somebody had their hand up.
Kyle.
What if after your on-campus interview you don't hear from them for a while? Do you assume that you didn't get another callback, or should you contact them again and say, what do you say, or
Do you want the job?
Like if you want the job.
I'm asking you. Do you want the job?
Yeah.
You gonna wait for them to talk to you? No. Follow up. I mean,
Okay,
don't follow
like
up
you
every
follow-
5 minutes. How do?
You follow up after the interview, but then you don't hear back from them about an on-campus or on-site interview. What do you? And you still want the job? What do you do from there? Do you try to contact them again and say, hey, am I still in the running, or
Do you want the job?
you don't want to sound annoying?
Hey, I am a kind of poster child for annoy them until they talk to you. I'm very serious, especially when you're trying to get a job. So if you want it, yeah, follow up. Appropriately space them, and I would say another tip would be to mix your form of communication. So if last time you emailed them, maybe this time send a written letter. If last time you sent a written letter, maybe call them on the phone. Mix up people that you talk to. Say, hey man, I spoke to Ryan Kane, followed up with him, I still haven't heard anything back. You're talking to Brian now, right? And then Brian can say, hey Ryan, I talked to Kyle on the phone. He said he followed up with you. What are you thinking, right? Always keep your name in the conversation. If you want the job, you can let it go, right? Maybe it's not right for you. But,
How often?
Right.
How often should you do that?
I would say, in my personal experience, I would do it every week. I really would do it every week if you want the job. And sometimes even showing up in person if you really want it. That one's awkward, but it is something. I'm serious though. And it wasn't, granted it was at a grocery store, but they were not talking to me, and I was like, hey, I want to bag groceries for you. Like, I'm here. Give me an apron and let me go. And they did. So I think it applies across.
When you're doing that type of communique, is there like when you're doing a repeated inquiry, is there a specific time or week or day that you find is best?
I typically do things like that early in the morning to try to get it into their email, or really late at night sometimes. I just like it to be on the top of their to-do list, because most people, once they get into their routine of doing things, into their job, then it's easy to overlook some of that kind of stuff. So I like it to be kind of front and center when they open up their computer for the day, or get their mail for the day. That's something you
I
can't
do
control.
think part of your follow-up can also be, when you're talking about next steps, when can I expect to hear from you, and when would it be all right to follow up?
Yes,
So
that's
that
great.
you are already setting up the expectation if I don't hear from you, but then you gotta hit it. Because if you ask them how long until, you should contact them again, you ought to be on it for contacting them then again if you want the job. But I think you can do that too, just to know what's appropriate. When are you really too aggressive, and when are you appropriately, assertive?
Right. It's good advice.
I actually dealt with this when I was interviewing. I went through, did my normal interviews, phone interviews, I'm in the office interviews, and when it was all said and done, they told me that they had offers outstanding.
This is for BDO.
This is literally what happened to me. Because I started, like I said earlier, the interview process on when they find their candidates is early in the season. So I talked to them, tried to get a job in like late October or something. And they told me that they had positions all already offered, and they were waiting to hear back. So I said, okay, thank you. And then about a month later, maybe a little less, I emailed them back and I said, hey, just wanted to follow up if any more positions opened up. And then that is when they said yes, and they called me back in and they interviewed me, and that is how I got hired. So being persistent definitely can pay off.
And a good haircut.
I miss my hair.
You used to have, before the career fair, you
Yes.
had a little cherubic curly blonde hair.
I look good.
And a cut.
Is there any other questions before we move on to kind of the last segment?
What's the time frame from career fair to when you schedule interviews, and then from after an interview when you actually make your hiring decision?
For BDO specifically?
I know you said
I think we do it pretty quick.
Yeah.
We're across public accounting firms, we all want the good people, so we're trying to snap people up quickly. I would say you know within a week or two whether you're going to get an interview. And then after you interview, sometimes you know the day of. So it depends on, because we interview kind of in groups, like you'll come with a group and then you'll each interview separately and with different people. But if you're in a big group, it might take a little bit longer because they'll have to have a discussion. But they normally have that discussion right afterwards. So you could literally know the day of, a couple days after you come in for the interview. So that's why it's important to follow up quickly too.
Ryan, our career fair is actually very late in the recruiting season as well. It's like one of the last weeks of career fairs. So they move much more quickly with our candidates than they do with other colleges. They're earlier in the term. So offers are usually made middle of October, towards the end of October, and so you'll know before November usually.
When you come in and you have an interview actually in the office, I know for us, we make that decisions where it can be made really fast unless we have like 3 groups that are happening 3 weeks, it can be a little delayed. But for me, it was 2 hours later where they called me back and they told me. So that decision can be made instantly if people are really fond of you and we want you to work with us, then that decision is usually made very quickly. But if it's not, if you don't receive that phone call right away, that's not the case. There could be, we are waiting for more candidates to come in. We have a lot of people who want to give everyone the fair chance.
In the situation I went through with BDO, the whole thing went rather quickly. I reached out outside of the career fair. Brian had given me a contact name, so I got in contact with this person, and I sent her an email and said, hey, I'm interested in BDO. She got back with me and said, all right, let's set up a phone interview, which was probably 2 days after I emailed her. And we did the phone interview, and she said, well, we want to bring you in for an office interview now. And I think that was 3 or 4 days later after that had happened. And I went for the office interview. I did my 3 interviews with BDO that day, and I think I got a call 4 or 5 hours later that they were hiring me. So it can be a fairly quick process, at least with us anyways, too.
When it says 3 interviews, it's not that intimidating.
Right.
It's just 3 segments. You sit down one-on-one in 3 different times. So it's not terrible. It's really nice.